Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. Although I did want to just splice in a little bit of the footage that I took from the weekend's action. You'll probably see a bit more of that either on the next episode of the Hardcore Casual or on the breakdown this Tuesday on the Undefeated podcast channel. But yeah, before I get into my thoughts on that, just want to say I haven't seen the David Adilier fight from Friday, but I have seen the knockout. I haven't watched that card, but I will try and get round to it to maybe address at a later date. But from what I did see, that looked like a pretty comprehensive performance. He worked body and head quite well. I'm a bit surprised, to be honest, that well, how effective the knockout looked anyway. Again, I haven't seen the entire fight, so I can't comment on the whole thing overall. But yeah, getting to Leigh Wood versus Mauricio Lara. Now, the fight card as a whole, I got to the arena just before, well, I got to the arena during the Chevron Clark fight, so I was kind of watching that on my phone a bit. But it took a little while to get inside. You know, all the exits and entrances were just rammed, so I'm not sure. I heard apparently there was an issue that happened prior, which was making it longer for everyone to get in. But good atmosphere, as always, you know. Nottingham, so definitely Nottingham Forest fans there. Notts County probably was some in there also. But yeah, overall, atmosphere was good. Gary Cully, I did actually think that Wilfredo Flores would go rounds. I predicted sort of that would end close to either very late stoppage or decision. I kind of went decision conservatively, but I mean, Gary Cully had absolutely no he had no designs on following my script whatsoever. What was it, second round? It was second or third round KO. I mean, he made short work of him and just showed the level that he's currently on. So he, I think, is next out on the Taylor versus Serrano 2 card. Big ups to him. See where we go. In terms of the co-main, Dalton Smith versus Billy Allington. Now, that one I did predict also that Dalton Smith would go points, but I actually thought it was a 10 rounder, not a 12. So when I saw it go to a 12 round, I actually thought that I may potentially be a little bit you know, so I may be down a couple rounds on that prediction. But the prediction held out. He did go points, although I am shocked that at no point in this fight did he at least get a point taken off. I mean, look, there was a point in the fight where, you know, Dalton Smith body slammed his opponent, literally lifted him up off the ground and slammed him down. And it wasn't like, oh, Allington jumped on his back or anything. Like he scooped him and dropped him. Like, you know, it was a natural takedown and didn't even get a point taken off. Now, yeah, he was winning the fight clearly, like almost every round up until that point, but rules are rules. So how do you not at least get a point taken off? And the thing is, he's done it or done other things very similar to that in other fights recently as well. So almost the skill sets that he had before, now it looks like he's just relying on brute physical force. And when he can't get people out of there, now he just wants to be dirty and dangerous and, you know, endanger people's safety and health in the ring. Not to mention, there was at least 2 rounds I can count where he punched after the bell, once to the back of the head, and the other time that the bell had gone quite clearly and he swung a punch straight after. And both times, obviously, Billy Allington has motioned to the ref, like, what are you doing? Like, help, like, what's going on? And the ref did nothing about it. It's the young ref, I can't remember his name, but he's never instilled me with much confidence, if I'm going to be totally honest. To me, it was an extremely poor performance from him. But as I said, it was a comprehensive win from Dalton Smith. So now he fights Sam Maxwell on, I think it's the 29th of April. So let's see where he kind of goes from there. Getting to the main event, I mean, look, I got this one wrong. I predicted that Leigh Wood was kind of going to win on points. I thought it'd be a points victory because stylistically and from you know, sort of a height and reach advantage and everything, I've seen Mauricio Lara struggle with people who are sort of taller, rangier, and are able to kind of, you know, control distance. You know, the one knockout one knockout loss he had previously was to a guy with very similar dimensions to Lee Wood. But that was more conditioning and body work knockout as opposed to head. Like, I didn't think that Lee Wood would be able to, you know, punch his head off, essentially. I knew he would land shots. I knew he would have to take some, but I thought particularly that ultimately Mauricio Lara will see out the fight because Lee Wood doesn't do a huge amount of work to the body, especially when he's fighting from range. And as he was fighting from range, there was, I mean, you know, there were some body shots going in, but there wasn't a huge amount. He was more headhunting and probing and keeping behind the jab. To be fair, ended in the 7th. Those first 6 rounds, I gave him 5 of them. The first one, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and the 6th. Like, he controlled the fight pretty much masterfully behind the lead hand. Lara was tentative to walk in because he just felt the power was on its way in, and he didn't really want to, you know, face that power as such, and he was having issues on trying to find his entry points to the point where he started then just trying to ambush towards the end of the rounds, when I guess at that point Lee Wood is almost switching off, thinking, oh well, the round's about done. And if we saw what happened in the Mick Conlan fight, that's what he did towards the very end of that first round. He just switched off, and as soon as he switched off, he got caught. And essentially the exact same thing happened in the 7th round of this fight. Now, the thing is, again, he was having a very, very good, successful round. He had hit Lara with, he hit him with a straight right about 5 seconds before the knockdown. Yeah, 5 to 8 seconds, and that was really kind of what told the story, because all he had to do, again, keep it long and not get greedy, but he was allowing Lara to get into the pocket when he actually didn't need to, and he was holding his chin up in the air. I saw that several times and said to myself, if he doesn't keep the range the way he's doing it now, all it's going to take is just one quick ambush and it's over. So as you saw Lee Wood actually twist his body to throw the hook. So rather than just hooking from his solid position, the same as Lara did, he twisted his body into it, which delayed the speed and the trajectory at which he was able to throw it. Didn't keep a high enough guard, didn't keep it tight enough to his chin, which is something I did say could be an issue prior to the fight. And yeah, he got cleaned out on the button, went down heavy. But to me, I actually think he went down heavier in the Conlan fight as opposed to this one. So he got up, obviously he was unsteady on his legs, but the thing that a lot of you guys wouldn't have seen is that on your screens, it showed that he got knocked down at like the 24th second of the round or something like that. No, it was actually the 16th. For some reason, the clock on the TV was 10 seconds out. So by the time he was getting up, just as he sort of stumbled over to his corner, just before the ref was saying, like, you know, put your gloves up, we heard in the arena, we heard the 10-second clapper come on. And then so he's put his hands up, the ref asked him again, put his hands up again, so he's put his hands up again. Lara's about to step in and Ben Davison throws in the towel. Now at that point, obviously everyone in the arena is like, why have you done that? Because we're all looking at the clock just above the screens, just above the ring. And it said, you know, 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Like we all saw it. That's when it stopped. David Diamante announced, you know, by a corner stoppage after 2 minutes and 54 seconds of the 7th round. So everyone's saying, well, look, he's been knocked down before, just as bad, if not worse. At that point, he's lucid enough that he's responding to commands. He said he wants to go. There's 6 seconds left. Let him get through the round. It's 6 seconds. At that point, Lara's not going to clean him out in 6 seconds, because worst case scenario, he can tuck up. Because by the time the ref gets out of the way, that's another second. That's 5 seconds. You can tuck up. Wood will then probably try and hold if he can, or he might even try and move to get out of the way. Even if he took another knockdown, he wasn't going to get cleaned out in those next 6 seconds. To me, what from the viewing angle that I saw it and where I've got it, and as you can see in the footage, he was steady enough that he wasn't going to try and trade with him at that point. The only way he would have got knocked out then is if he was trying to trade. At that point, he would have tucked up, he would have braced for the shots. Worst case scenario, as I said, another knockdown. If that knockdown happens, well, that then comes after the boy would have got up again. Then you assess him in the corner. If you decide to wave it off in the corner, cool, I've got no problem with that, because now you've had a proper assessment. But with someone defending their world title, a title that they've literally had to wait almost 2 years to actually, to get elevated to the proper champion based on, the foolishness of the WBA, and with 6 seconds left of a round, you throw in the towel while they're still up. Like, if they were struggling, if he fell back down, or if he was wobbling all over the place, and you was just like, okay, let me take it out of the referee's hands, that's one thing. But he wasn't. At that point, yes, I'm not saying he was the most steadiest on his feet, but he was good enough that he could have survived 6 seconds, possibly even 10 seconds. And it was a mistake from Ben Davison, and I've actually got it on good authority. I'm not going to mention any names just in case there's certain things that maybe shouldn't have been said, but I know for a fact Ben Davison didn't know how long was left in the round, and he actually asked Eddie Hearn at the end of the fight how long was left, and Eddie Hearn said 6 seconds, and Ben Davison put his head in his hands, like, because he realized my guy could have got through that. I could have assessed it. So he even recognizes that he made a mistake. So look, was it a bad stoppage? Not necessarily. That's what I will say. It wasn't a bad stoppage in the sense that you stop it before it gets to a point where, it's, the fight is only going one way and your guy's, about to get severely damaged. But the manner of the stoppage and sort of the time and elapse, that was bad. Like, the method of stoppage, or the way the fight was stopped, was poor, but the fight actually being stopped, I don't have a huge amount of criticism against, just the way. But that's me, that's my opinion. You guys can put yours down in the chat below. Moving on real quick, I haven't watched the entire card yet, so when I get back to London I will be doing so. But Luis Nery versus Azat Hovhannisyan, that was a brilliant fight. If you haven't seen, you know what, that very much could be a fight of the year contender. Lasted 11 rounds. I'll get into breakdowns and stuff on Tuesday, because I'm definitely talking about that fight. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it was an amazing fight. Luis Nery coming up essentially from 118 to sort of 122. Hovhannisyan is the natural 122 guy. Luis Nery had the style advantage. He was a boxer puncher in terms of the, sort of the classic stances, whereas Hovhannisyan was a classic pressure fighter. So boxer punchers normally have that advantage against them, but that normally pertains to if you've got enough speed to be able to, speed and power to sort of counteract the constant aggression. But both guys were hurt severely in that fight at numerous times. But hats off to Luis Nery, because just when it looked like his work rate started to slow and he was starting to feel the body shots, he was starting to get rocked, he was like standing in front, not moving, not planting his feet, but then every time he just managed to come back with a very a very good counter on 2 occasions, once in the 10th and then once again in the 11th. And yeah, he put Hovhannisyan down in the 10th, and then in the 11th, even though Hovhannisyan was still going, he was still ready to carry on, the referee jumped in and said, no, you've taken too much. Yeah, if you haven't seen that fight, you need to watch it. It's an amazing fight. I can't recommend it high enough. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one there, because yeah, I've got places to go and I've got things to do and I've got people waiting on me. So thanks very much for watching. I'll get back to you in the next episode and we'll see where we go from there. Don't forget the breakdown on Tuesday. I may even have another special guest popping through, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Chat to you soon.